Hello everyone, and welcome to week 15 of English 120. This week you will be reading a few chapters in the Valley of the Moon, chapters 13 through 16. Just a note, by next week you will be finishing the Valley of the Moon. There is no discussion or research journal this week. Your main assignment is just to finish your research essay. Now it does say draft 1, but that means a very finished draft. And we're going to go over how to create a research essay today. So this week you're going to be turning in draft 1. Next week you'll be doing a peer review and a self-review, and then the final week 17, you'll be turning in your final draft. So let's talk about the basic structure of a research paper. Your research paper will have an introduction, which will be at least 2 to 3 paragraphs long. Your introduction should begin with a hook, something that grabs the reader. There's some great examples. We'll talk about it in a second in what types of hooks to use. You want to introduce your topic. Tell us about the history of the topic. You want to frame your argument and then clearly state your thesis statement. And remember, your thesis is the topic you're talking about and the purpose you have for writing about that topic. You should have 5 to 10 paragraphs at least of body paragraphs. Each 1 to 2 paragraph set, there should be about 1 to 2 paragraphs per topic. Generally at least two paragraphs per topic. Each body paragraph should introduce the subtopic that you're talking about, so the topic within the topic. It should support using evidence, so quotations from your sources, what point you're trying to make. Remember, if you have the experts behind you supporting you, it's easier to support what you're saying. And at the end, you need to relate all the information you've just given us back to your thesis. How does it help you prove your thesis statement? Your conclusion, which should be about 2 to 3 paragraphs long, should restate all of the main points that you've made in your paper. Restate the evidence you've used to prove your points. And by reinforcing your message and sharing your final thoughts on the topic. Please avoid using throughout the paper, I believe or I feel. Finally, you'll end with a works cited page. This is where you'll provide citations for all of the sources you've referred to in this paper. Citations must follow MLA format. See Chapter 20 for MLA formatting guide. There's a sample works cited page found on 367 in the Bedford Researcher. So let's talk a little bit about drafting your introduction. And I do apologize about my voice. I am not feeling well this week. I've caught that cold that everyone seems to be catching. So drafting your introduction. Much of the work for your introduction was done when you created your topic history and your research prospectus. An introduction should grab your reader with a hook. It should introduce your topic. It should frame your argument and clearly state your thesis. See pages 249 to 253 in the Bedford Researcher for details on how to write an effective introduction. Included in those pages is a list of different types of hooks. Now, a hook is where you're going to really grab your reader. And you can do it by defining a problem, making a surprising statement, asking a question, telling a story, providing an historical account, drawing a contrast. You can lead with a quotation, but remember, you always get the first and last words in every paragraph that you write. So those hook examples are found on pages 252 to 253. And there's a sample introduction here. This is a very short introduction. Your introduction should be much longer. When you, when you draft your body paragraphs, you can use the outline that you created, translate your bulleted list of topics into full sentences, and don't be afraid to change the order of the ideas as you need to in order to make your point as you're drafting. Draft effective paragraphs by focusing on a central idea. Paragraphs should have a topic sentence in which you make an assertion, offer an observation, or ask a question. Follow a pattern in your paragraph. Support the point that you're making by supporting it with evidence from a source. You must support what you say with evidence from sources. When you use evidence from a source, so you make a claim, you make your statement, right? And you support it by introducing your source, by naming the author, establishing his or her authority on the topic, and using attributions such as according to, claimed, expressed, reported, acknowledged, commented, inquired, said, stated, wrote, pointed out. Always contextualize your quotation before you say it and after you say it. Final sentence of your body paragraph should draw a conclusion based on the evidence provided that supports the essay's thesis statement. Here's an example body paragraph, and when you read it, you'll see the central idea of the paragraph follows the initial question. The third and fourth sentences use evidence from a source to show the real cost of hiring contractors. The author of the evidence is introduced, and her authority as a source is confirmed by mentioning she's a professor at Middlebury College. The quote is contextualized before and after the quotation. The final sentence draws a conclusion that supports the essay's thesis statement. In order to create a flow between your body paragraphs, use transitions. Transitions are words and phrases such as however and on the other hand that show the relationship between paragraphs and sentences. Transitions help readers understand how one sentence builds on another and how a new paragraph is related to the other one before it. By signaling these relationships, they help readers anticipate how the information and ideas they are about to read are related to the information and ideas they've just read. Here are some possible transitions to use to help readers understand the flow of the information you're providing. And they're also defined. So to help readers follow a sequence, use words like furthermore or in addition. To show contrast between ideas, use however or on the other hand. To elaborate about something, like provide an example, for instance, such as to signal a concession. I admit that, of course, granted. To compare, similarly, in the same manner, and then to introduce a conclusion. This is important. As a result, as a consequence, therefore, thus, for this reason. When you draft your conclusion should at least summarize the main points that you've made in your paper and tell us how these points support or prove your thesis. Remember, your conclusion is your last chance to leave an impression on your reader, and therefore it gives you a final opportunity to influence your readers. See the conclusion drafting strategies on pages 253 to 256 of the Bedford Researcher. You'll notice there's another set of ideas on how to end your conclusion. You can offer final additional analysis, you can speculate about the future, you can close with a quotation, you can close with a story, you can close with a question, you can call your readers to actions, or one of the most effective ways to end your conclusion is to link back to your introduction. You want to use your sources effectively. Use sources to introduce an idea or argument. Contrast ideas or arguments. Provide evidence for your argument. Align your argument with an authority. Define a concept, illustrate a process, or clarify a statement. When you integrate, this is how you integrate your sources in your draft. You need to use an attribution to identify your source. See page 263 for a list of attributions. Cite your source by providing the last name of the author, if not already stated, and the page number in parentheses after the end of the quotation. Here's an example. Pamela Koch argues as the attribution. Education reform is the best solution for fixing our public schools. Notice the page number 22 is listed, not her last name because it's already been stated. Choose your quotes wisely. Don't use block quotations throughout your essay. You can use a partial quote, which uses only part of a sentence or even a single word. All words that are quoted are in quotation marks. Source information is included at the end of the sentence. or complete quotation, one or more complete sentences, which is same as the partial. And you can provide up to 3 lines of typed text. Extended block quotations are the final one, and that's an extended quotation. You want to limit your use of these. 1 or 2 suffice for a paper of this length. That's what you do when you have more than 4 typed lines of text. They are indented 1 inch from the left margin, and there is no quotation marks around them. You cite the source at the end, last name, page number. Whenever you use a quotation in your draft, you need to first introduce the quotation, include the quotation, and then explain to the reader what the quotation means in regards to the point that you're making in your paper. There's a great chart on page 267 which shows you details on how to integrate quotations into your draft. You'll also need to include a works cited page. There's an example right here on the right. There's also another one on page 367. You must have a works cited page at the end of your paper on a separate page. It must have all of the sources that you've cited in your paper in the correct format. All right, guys, excuse me. That's it for this week. We only have 2 weeks left, week 16 and week 17. In week 16, we're going to be talking about the end of the Valley of the Moon. You're also going to do a peer review and a self-review. Then in week 17, all you have to do is turn in your final research paper. All right, I will be providing comments back on your draft after you turn it in this week. So expect to see that in week 16 to help you get your draft to the best that it can be for your final revised draft that's due in week 17. As always, please let me know if you have any questions.